The NBA playoffs start April 16th, and with the play-in games, there are now 20 teams vying for the NBA championship. The 2022 playoffs give you up to 9 weeks of action, with game number 1 of the NBA Finals not even tipping off until June 2nd. Last year, the NBA playoff package was listed for $249, but we've made it even better this year by lowering the entire 9-week playoff package to $199. While the early bird catches the worm may be a cliche, but it holds true to this incredible offer. The first 99 customers can use the coupon code FIRST99 and save an additional $50 off the playoff package, dropping the price down to $149. That's right, 9 weeks of NBA action for $149. That's under $17 per week. Act fast to use code FIRST99, as only the first 99 customers can use this code.
Welcome into First Pitch, WagerTalk's premier MLB betting show for Monday, April 11th. I am Drew Martin, joined by Tony Finn and Brian Leonard of WagerTalk.com. We're breaking down the MLB board for tonight's slate. First up here, Brian Leonard. Check him out, WagerTalk.com. $9 Monday. Brian, welcome in, buddy. How you feeling?
I appreciate it. Thank you. Doing well. 5-1 run in hockey, and got one hockey playoff today. One baseball playoff today, and only $9 each. And as we all know, the NBA playoffs start tomorrow. Was number one last year, 74% winners in the NBA playoffs, 34 net units in the NBA playoffs, which was also number one. So a good time to be a bettor.
Absolutely. We got on the diamond, on the ice, in the association. Brian Leonard, a man of many talents. Another man of many talents, Tijuana Tony by some, Tony Finn by others. Tony, welcome in, man. Happy Monday to you.
Thank you. Happy Monday to you guys, too. It's Monday. It's Monday. Every day's Friday, though. Every day is Friday in my world. If I could just get paid every Friday, then every day would be even better. So for us, we are yet to put up any baseball, any basketball, although they go up right after the show. My baseball is pretty much set. I'm just waiting for some lineups, some information. And I have one play for tomorrow's play-in the association. So, like Brian, I wasn't number one in postseason basketball last year, but I am right now. It's at the top of the profit chart. We'll see how long that lasts. A lot of basketball left, obviously, into June when the championship or when the title series begins. So let's pick some winners.
Yeah, talk about getting paid here. We'll help you do that. Hopefully on today's MLB card, talking here in the National League East, a top matchup, at least the number 1 and number 2 teams early in the season here. That's being the New York Mets, actually run differential top in the National League here, Brian. Taijuan Walker on the hill, total of 9, minus 150 favorites. That's the home Philadelphia Phillies, going with Suarez coming from the left side. Kind of, I guess we could say top prospect here, top ceiling guy, high ceiling guy. Really for both pitchers here, but a commanding price for the Phillies. Do you agree with that here, Brian?
Yeah, this is going to be my best bet, so I won't say much on it. But yeah, it was somewhat surprising when these two teams opened that you would get a home favorite in this range, because for anything that you use for your expected win totals, the Mets are expected to do a little bit better than the Phillies. And yet the Phillies are in a 150 range right now. But I'll talk more about this when we get to my best bet.
Fair enough, guys. We're breaking down the best bets at the end of the show. Always a key moment in the show. But Tony, we'll come to you next. The two top teams here in the NL East. Kind of a key NL East battle here, with all due respect to the defending champions, Atlanta Braves. What are you thinking in Philadelphia tonight?
Well, I'm thinking back when I saw this was going to be one of their games today, one of the featured games on the first pitch. Thought back to the first night in October, at the 10th straight October, where the Phillies were not a postseason team. Pretty shocking. I mean, think about what the Phillies, who they've been, who they could be, or who they thought they could be, and when they signed Bryce Harper, et cetera, et cetera. In truth, Bryce Harper had a great year last year. Zach Wheeler surprisingly, I thought that was one of the poor signings for Philly, but you're not. It'd be hard to argue that at this point in time. And he was brilliant in his last start too. Then, of course, there's Ranger Suarez, who I wasn't sure, guys, he was going to make it to this point because he had some visa problems, and the visa problems did create an issue where he only had 2 appearances during spring. Pretty good appearances, but he'll be on a pitch count, which, from what I understand, is going to be 50 to 70 pitches. 50, probably closer to 50, maybe than 70. And a guy who pitches to ground balls, sometimes that's an issue because you're plugging and grinding away at the bottom of the strike zone trying to get those ground balls. However, he's also a guy who last year had some complete games under 100 pitches, and he's been kind of a revelation in truth, and it's hard not to like the guy. I don't believe he can have the kind of season that he had last year, where when he was in the bullpen, he went to the closer role with, I think, a .88 ERA. He came out of the closer role with a 1.1 high 1 load, or at least sub 2 ERA, and then made some starts that were pretty darn good. Let's just put it this way: pretty darn good. I think he pitched 43 pitches, 3 2/3 scoreless innings in his first of the 2 big league games, I believe, that he pitched at, and they put him on a limit of 60, is what I read. Now, I don't know that that's the case for today's game, but a good 2-1 season series for this weekend for the Phillies. Bullpen that's has its issues over the last 5 or 6 years, and they look to be pretty good. Lost a few guys, added a few guys. Hector Neris looks like he's going to be part of the at least Connor Brogdon, Alvarado, Bradley, not Bradley, but Suarez. Ian Kennedy's gone, and Ian Kennedy kind of added the ability for them to use Suarez. So, long story short, I like as Brian does, being his best bet, Philly here. I'm assuming that's who's the best bet's going to be on, but the Mets are sitting out Ty Walker, who actually had a pretty good year last year, have a high 4 ERA. I thought he benefited from a BABIP that probably can't be matched to a guy who pitches to contact, but some luck, some unluck, and I thought he had more luck, more fortuitous games last year than unlucky. So in this game, top 6 guys in this Philly lineup are pretty tough, and I like Philly at home today. I thought $150 was a little bit heavy, as you guys talked about in the intro, but if I'm on this game, and I could very well be, depends on when I see the lines come out, it should be out very shortly, I would be on the Phillies to go 3-1 and continue to really please the Philly fan base, which is hard to please, let's say. So give me Philly minus the $150 today.
All right, Tony, agreeing there with the odds makers in the line. Also, the money movement here, guys. Looking at the WagerTalk odds screen, you can see it open minus 145, and it's as high as minus 150 now. So the money coming in on the Phillies as well. We'll get Brian's official best bet on this game at the end of the show. Tony, coming back to you for our next game here, arguably the biggest matchup, at least by fan bases here. American League East early season key matchup here. We get Alex Manoah going for the Jays, Jameson Taillon going for the Yankees. We're seeing a competitively priced game here, Tony. Open minus 115. We're seeing it in the minus 115 as high as minus 120 range at DraftKings right now. We got 9 being the total. Good matchup here in the AL East, Tony. I'll tell you, this Manoah guy, he's the 4th or the 5th starter for the Blue Jays, but I really believe he could be a number 2 on a lot of teams. The South Dade High School product, went to West Virginia. His strikeout to walk ratio in the minors was ridiculous. He had a good show in his rookie year in terms of his numbers. Also, his numbers against the Yankees, very good, Tony. How much do you think that factors in? Who are you liking tonight, Blue Jays and Yankees?
I believe everything you said is spot on. I thought this would be a tough game for the odds makers or the bookmakers to open at, because in truth, you just mentioned it. Manoah being the number 3-4 pitcher for this Blue Jays. He's the best pitcher on this Blue Jays team, in my opinion. The best. He's the number 1. Now, it's awful young. He's awful young early in his career to set him in that one spot, especially with the expectations that Toronto has. And I mentioned it the other night on the show. I do a Friday night show with a friend of all of ours, and we talked a little bit about Toronto, that if you're going to get any value on Toronto, if they continue to play the way they're playing, hit the ball the way they're hitting it, then April, early May is probably the last time we're going to be able to push money across the counter on Toronto and get any value at all, except in this situation when they're playing the Yankees or Boston or Houston, or somebody at the top of the food chain in the National League, for instance. But as good as Talion is, and as good as he was last year, there's a lot. I got very little information. I didn't get to see him pitch this spring. I talked to a few people, but in this situation, the way Toronto is hitting the ball and doing so, regardless of the score, they just get up to the plate, start swinging, and they don't have to hope for the best. They're going to get the best, and typically, I think that's going to be good enough, even against the Yankees. I would take. In fact, I haven't done it. Again, this is a game I haven't played, I haven't pushed in on, but if I'm in this room, guys, I'm on Toronto and Manoah. I really am. I like what I see from Toronto.
Good stuff, Tony. And Brian, coming to you next. I mean, what Toronto getting a plus price here? It sounds like Tony was looking towards the Jays as well. What do you think? The odds makers might in the marketplace have this wrong, and maybe the wrong team favored tonight in the Bronx, Brian?
Yeah, this is an interesting line. As I have Toronto winning this division pretty handedly, especially over the Yankees, who I took under for season wins. Don't know if I would say Manoah's number one, but he's number 1C. They've got three terrific starters to open this season, and Manoah's been very impressive. Tony's right. Anytime I get a chance to take Manoah in the underdog role, I'm going to look at it. Plus, anytime the Yankees play the Red Sox, especially if it's the Sunday night game, I am looking to fade those teams, especially the team that won the series in the next game, and that's the Yankees. I think you can make a lot of money fading Boston and the Yankees after they play. The game just means so much. And when you take a look at Toronto, this was a team that finished one game out of the playoffs last year, and they're playing in this division with some very good teams, Boston, the New York Yankees. So the games this year, I think, mean a little bit more for Toronto. These are show-me games. And so we got Toronto here that I think is a better team, getting them as an underdog in this price range. And from a pitching standpoint, I'm not high on Tyon. Manoah's the much better player. And if you look at the Toronto, they're good pitchers in the bullpen. They're all available today. They didn't pitch yesterday. So I think this is a bargain here with Toronto. I prefer the Blue Jays here.
Like the Blue Jays as well. Okay, so guys, we might revisit this one in the best bets section. And Brian, I do have one follow-up question for you, kind of a handicapping question, because what you were talking about there in terms of maybe fading the Red Sox, kind of Yankees playing each other Sunday night baseball. But the Yankees staying at home, I guess it's kind of a two-part question to you, because I know you've had a lot of success betting MLB. Guys, you can check them out, WagerTalk.com. Brian Leonard, his experts page. What are your thoughts on home field advantage in MLB, like compared to maybe football or basketball? How much do you factor in kind of a number value to the Yanks, staying at home, playing at home? Do you think there's a lot to that?
I think it's weak. It is very similar to hockey. There is a slight advantage. Maybe, instead of making it a minus 110, it's maybe minus 120, minus 125 in that range. So, I'm seeing 120, 2 120s out there right now. So it's baked into the line. And I did the Wager Talk Today show today, and I watched the first part when Marco D'Angelo was on there. And he got some stats from Ralph Michaels, who's very good in discovering these kind of stats with the program that he has. But talking about teams playing the Sunday night game are only a 43% winning percentage, and the average line is minus 109. So it's key to fade those teams playing that night. And also, they've gone under at a nice pace. So if that's something you like to do, it makes a lot of sense. When I see a trend like that, it's got to be able to make sense, and it does to me. And for some reason, the Red Sox and the Yankees seem to be on Sunday Night Baseball, that last game, a lot. So that may be one of the reasons why we've had that success betting these teams. But that's something I'm looking to do. I'm not anytime I see something out of whack when it comes to home and road records, similar to Colorado last year. Colorado every year is the one team that plays well at home and they're horrendous on the road. They just played the Dodgers, beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3 at home. Now they got to go on the road. The line, in that game against Texas is a little bit high, up in 110, is went up to 135. So I'm a little bit priced out of that. But the reason why that line moved is because of the way Colorado plays on the road compared to home, and they did beat the LA Dodgers in that regard. So we're not going to talk about that game, I don't believe, on this show, but that's why you saw that line move there.
Yeah. I mean, we can only talk about 3 games. That's how it's stated. But that was an interesting handicap, Brian. I mean, and feel free to throw out anything as you're doing analysis in that one as well. Colorado, Texas, Gomber on the hill. We're seeing minus 135 now, bought up 25 cents, like Brian said, towards the Rangers being at home. But guys, we're going to move to our third game here before we get to best bets. That's in the American League. Tony, we'll come to you first again here. Seattle Mariners at the Minnesota Twins, 967, 968 on the WagerTalk odds screen. Chris Flexen, the former KBO Korean baseball star here, back in the show on the road in Minnesota versus Dylan Bundy, commanding a minus 125 to minus 130 price tag, depending where you're shopping, 9 being the total. What are you thinking here, M's and Twins, Tony?
The Twins are a little bit of a mystery still. Last year seemed to be it was difficult for me at least to wrap my arms around them in many cases. They seem to be set up to be successful at home, yet I think off the top of my head, I think there were 38, 43 or something like that in home games a year ago in Target. Their pitching staff was really supposed to be a little bit better than they were. I think collectively had just almost a 5 ERA while averaging about 9 strikeouts per 9, which isn't horrible. In this day and age, it's probably a little bit less than. But Seattle was a surprise last year, at least in my orbit. Guys, it's a team that went 90 and 72 and just continued to win when you never thought they could win. They throw some guys to the mound. And I think we've seen it this year. Guys like Gilbert, and I've already had 2 plays. Fortunately I'm a 4-0 to start the season, and 2 of my wins have been on in a Seattle situation. So that said, I'm high on Seattle. They're a team I trust to win close games. They did it last year, being inexperienced, and I think that they'll continue to do so this year as well. The Mariners didn't hit very well. I mean, they didn't hit very well collectively. Again, use that word. However, when they needed to hit, they did, guys. I think they batted 226 last year as a team, although there was a down season as a group in the American League and National League as far as batting average goes. But today's game, Bundy was cut short last year. He went on the 60-day DL or IL, what do you want to call it that, at the end of the season, I believe. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but he moves from LA to Minnesota, and none of us, I don't think any of us have ever been big Bundy fans or had a lot of faith in Bundy, especially when he was with his Baltimore years, when Baltimore just can't win, or they still can't win, couldn't win, can't win. So I was surprised a little bit, truthfully. I was a little surprised to see Minnesota favored over Flexen. Flexen was better at home than he was on the road, but no team in the American League won at a more regular rate last year behind a single starting pitcher than the Mariners did behind Flexen. I think they were 20-9 in games when Flexen pitched, which is that's better than a Scherzer. That's better than a Urias. That's pretty darn good, especially for an offense that hit 229. In this game, I don't have a lot. I don't have a strong opinion. I've given the outline of what I think of both teams. I think we have a lot to learn, but it would be hard for me, even though it's on the road for Seattle, to fade them today. I would be Seattle and Flexen.
I'm with you, Tony. And great stat there in terms of Flexen's record pitching with the team like that. Brian, coming to you next. I guess it's a short sample size here, but the Mariners last season were one of, if not the most profitable team. Maybe the San Francisco Giants were, but the Mariners were right there with them, Brian. A great team to bet on last season. It kind of correlates with having a really good bullpen. And sure enough, I know it's short sample size here, just through one series, but by most metrics in terms of bullpen numbers, strikeouts, whip, ERA, things of that nature, you could make the argument the Mariners are at the top again. They are by most metrics in terms of their bullpen, and that correlates with winning games here. So flexing on the hill looks to be a good bullpen again, getting a plus price here on the Mariners. It would be Mariners or pass for me. Sounds like Tony's in that camp. What are you thinking here, Brian, with the M's at the Twins?
Yeah, the great point with the flex and win loss, but that tells you more about the offense. It's when flexing pitches as opposed to the other pitchers. But still, I don't care how you win. If you're betting on Seattle, whether it be a no hitter or they score 15 runs, you got a winner there. So yeah, Seattle's the team I was looking to fade. Early in the summer, coming into this off season. Because they were so good in one-run games last year. And anytime you see that, you usually see some regression. So that was the team I was looking to fade. But then they brought in some really good players. So it took me off of that situation. And even though it's in the back of my head, from an offensive standpoint, this is a much better hitting team than it was a season ago. I don't want any part of Dylan Bundy. I really like this Minnesota team. I like the things they've done. But you've got Chris Archer and Dylan Bundy in the starting rotation. Obviously, they went out and picked up Paddock, cost them their closer. But as you mentioned, the bullpen is so good. They've got some other guys that can take over. I'm not too worried about that. But they know they've had some weaknesses in the back of the rotation. They do have some guys in the minors. I think they'll be up by the end of the season. And I wouldn't expect to see Bundy or Archer being totally fixated in their starting rotation. By that point, they may be, come long relievers at that point. But I prefer the Seattle side here. To me, they're the better team. The bullpen is in good shape for this game. And Dylan Bundy is a guy that, what do you have, 1-2 good seasons? He's never performed well. Now, granted, he started off in Baltimore. And once he left Baltimore, we thought that was the deal. He was out of Baltimore. But no, I still have my concerns about Dylan Bundy here. Flexen's one of these guys that's not a big strikeout pitcher. And we see this a lot where guys that just don't strike people out, more of a ground ball pitchers, like a Stroman and some of the other guys in this league that get it done with their savvy as opposed to striking people out. He's a different pitcher than he was when he was in the majors early on with the Mets. So I like flexing here, and to get him as a plus price, yeah, put me on Seattle. They'll make my card.
All right, Mariners look here. Sounds to be across the board. Tony Finn, Brian Leonard, I am Drew Martin. Guys, this is First Pitch, WagerTalk's MLB betting show each and every day, 1:45 Eastern time. Come and join us right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. If you're watching on replay, feel free to reply below where you agree with us, where you disagree with us. It's all welcome. Huge shout out to the chat box, everybody joining live. We got C. James in the house, Abel as well, Jeffrey Moore, RJ. All of you guys, some different looks here. So check it out in the chat box as well, as we got best bets coming up right now. Tony Finn, 4-0 start to the MLB season. Check him out, his experts page, Tony Finn on wagertalk.com. Tony, what do you got for best bets for us?
Well, I couldn't decide at all. In fact, I just put it up for you guys to see, but before I made a decision, since I was going to do Philly. I liked Philly today, but I saw Brian had chose that game or chose that matchup. So I'm going to stay in the matchup, but I'm going to play the south side of a 9, especially since it's got some juice. I think that at some point in time today it's possible you could get a 9.5 here, at least from what I'm seeing on our live odds board. And I'm going to do it for 2 reasons. One, I've got information out. You guys, if you've checked on this, typically it's hard to get umpire information, in the first game of the series. Let's say that. But today I'm showing, Blakeney is the umpire today. And if that's the case, then I like this under. I like the under even without Blakeney, to be completely honest with you. But this guy who his K percentages are pretty good in Major League. He's a what I call kind of a middling umpire, 190 career starts behind the plate, a guy that's 23% of the outs in a game are strikeouts. And not that that should be a surprise in the day of home runs and strikeouts, but he has a pretty good size zone. He's a good zone. One of the what I call robots. He's a younger guy that are different than the old school guys that we've seen, like West and some of the guys who are fading into the sunset and retiring per se too. So you're going to get a K boost from him. I think when Blakeney's on the hill behind any pitcher, let's say an average pitcher, you're probably going to get about 10% more strikeouts than you would, maybe 15% more than you would get with the average umpire and his average K zone. Quickly on why I like the under here, especially with the top of this order of the Phillies looking really good. I mean, if they're hitting, it could be a difficult task to stay under 9. But I like Blakeney, and while I'm not a huge fan of the Mets pitching staff. Some are very high on it. I think the Mets are going to hit, and they're going to hit left-handers pretty well too. They face who we've talked about already in Suarez, a southpaw, who's probably going to be limited. Again, we've talked about this, 50, 60, 70 pitches in there. And for a guy who I think pitched above his pay grade last year, had more strikeouts if you look at his career in minor leagues than you would have assumed he would have had in his 13, 11, 12 starts last year. I like him. I like him a lot. Listen, very few changeups in baseball better than Suarez. If you look at his whiff rate, first off, 47% whiff rate on that pitch on a changeup is about as good as it gets, and it comes along with a 258 xWBA against it. So that's pretty darn good. Here's the deal. Philly's bullpen is light years. And if we had more time in this best bet, I'd go over it because some of the additions they've made, terrific. Some of the subtractions, no problem at all for me as far as that bullpen goes. And if you look at what they did this weekend, other than a couple hiccups, one hiccup was an unearned run, they were fantastic. Now, the caveat to that, guys, obviously, is they were facing the Oakland A's. So I thought they were going to sweep the A's. They failed in the third. Listen, today in this situation, and I'm going to pull up the latest line for you guys just to be sure. But right now, still $1.50, $1.48 at a couple joints if you're offshore or you're not, maybe not licensed by the U.S. Walker is going to be fortunate to escape this game and get 5 innings pitched. And I say that on the under only because I really believe that everything sets up perfectly for a game where Suarez succeeds, and then the 4+ innings that the bullpen had to cover, that Philly comes close to shutting out the Mets today. Give me a 4-5-1 game on under 9. I think the best bet for this show, Phillies Mets under 9.
Guys, for my best bet, I'm going to go to the Toronto Blue Jays New York Yankees game, and I'm going to back Alex Manoah and the Jays plus 107. Can get them as high as plus 109 if you're in Las Vegas at South Point Hotel and Casino Sportsbook, one of my favorites on the south end of the strip there in Vegas. But either way, guys, Jays plus price, arguably the best team in the American League, and Alex Manoah on the hill. When you go back, I don't have his high school numbers, South Dade High School in Homestead, Florida, but in West Virginia against Big 12 conference foes, really good strikeout to walk ratio. Carried over to the minors. He had 110 innings last year, looked really good outside of a couple growing pains. And his numbers against the Yankees, short sample size, but in 35 at-bats, just about a 650 team OPS against for the Yanks. So he's had success against this lineup. Plus, on the other side of things, the Blue Jays lineup over a 900 team OPS against Jameson Taillon, who's starting for the Yankees. Add on the fact, I think the market is underrating this Blue Jays bullpen a little bit with Yimi Garcia and Romano on the back end. So I think Manoah to those two, plus price on arguably the best team in the American League. I'm on the Jays plus 107, guys. That's my best bet. We'll throw it over to Brian Leonard here to finish us off. Check him out for the last 5 MLB seasons. Profitable for him. He knows his baseball as well as NHL and NBA. Brian, what do you got for best bets?
I've got one play up in Major League Baseball, a one play up in the NHL, 5-1 run the NHL. Number 2 in net profit this season, number 2 in net profit last season. Only one game today, so you know what game I'm giving out. But that will be my NHL play, and I've got one play up in Major League Baseball. 4 out of 5 winning years there. Also, by the way, NBA playoffs start tomorrow. And last year in the NBA playoffs, I had 74% winners, finished with plus 34 net units of profit, both number one at WagerTalk. So I really like the NBA playoffs. You know when players are going to play and when they're not going to play. Totally different than the regular season. I don't put out a lot of plays in the regular season because it's too much of a guessing game, and I don't want to be guessing. So the NBA playoffs are a big moneymaker. They've always been, and I expect another one this year. I'm going to head back to the same game that Tony talked about, the Mets in Philadelphia. For the Mets today, Brandon Emo's having neck problems, so he's not going to play in this game, which means either Travis Janikowski will get a start in the outfield, or maybe Dominic Smith, but probably Janikowski, or possibly J.D. Davis comes in at DH, and then one of the other guys moves around. But still, when you've got a pitcher that pitches like Ranger Suarez, J.D. Davis, a big power hitter, I think is at a disadvantage there. So I think from a starting standpoint, from that, the Mets haven't put out their starting lineup yet. Phillies is out. So no surprises in the Philadelphia lineup. But the Mets are one of those teams that, as I said, the line originally looks a little high, but it's high for a reason. Open 45, as you said. I even see Circa now at 54. And Circa is one of the market leaders when it comes to baseball betting. So money's coming in on Philadelphia. I would suggest you do that now. Ranger Suarez, in his career, has a 3.71 xFIP. This is a guy who pitches in Philadelphia. How often do you see Philadelphia pitchers with an xFIP of that number, especially a young guy like Ranger Suarez? This is a good hitter's ballpark, and I think he's been very impressive since he's been coming around. A lot of it has been in the bullpen, but I like him in this starting lineup. He's a guy that right now a lot of people don't know about, and I think we get a little bit of an advantage there. And Walker is one of those guys. If you take a look at his career, his first 3 years, he was great. Then he got hurt, and he's never been the same pitcher. I expect his ERA to be 4.5 to 4.8 this year by the time it's all over. That's not good. And it's not good when you're playing in a place like Philadelphia where that ball really flies out, especially against this Philadelphia offense that's really signed some good power hitting, good hitting outfielders in Schwarber and Castellanos. So give me Philadelphia here, minus 150 range. I don't think it'll be there by game time. And even though it's gone up a little bit, that's clearly the right side in this game for me.
All right, he's Brian Leonard, guys. Check him out in the recap for the best bet. I got the Jays plus 107. Brian, Phillies minus 150. Tony Finn, Mets, Phillies under 9 plus 100 there. So for Brian Leonard, Tony Finn, I am Drew Martin. Guys, make sure to check out WagerTalk.com. It's $9 Monday today. All plays discounted to just $9. Bunch of free plays up as well, so you can get written detailed analysis. But guys, thanks for tuning in. Please smash that like button. Huge shout out to the chat box. Feel free to reply below. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Come back and join us. Best of luck until then. Thanks for tuning in.
Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at WagerTalk.com. All daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including $40 5% best bets. As an added bonus, all new users will receive $25 in WagerBucks credited to their accounts, available for immediate use after their initial $9 Monday purchase. So make sure to take advantage of $9 Mondays at WagerTalk.com.